Back at it again. Season 1, Episode 2, Stars Volta. Thank you for listening. Our next guest is one of my good buddies, my favorite NFL player in the entire world. He is from alumni from Henderson State. He played on the Seattle Seahawks. He played on the Kansas City Chiefs. He played on the San Diego and LA Chargers. Everybody, the great, the wonderful, the talented Sean McGrath.
Wow, Steve, what an introduction. First of all, I want to take this opportunity to thank you for having me on here and deeming me worthy to, spit some nonsense into the world, and hopefully everybody listening out there can at least get a couple laughs out of it. If not, possibly learn something.
Yes,
so, thank you.
Yeah, and laughs indeed. I think that's like when I met you. That's You're always smiling. You're a year younger than me, and we played in MJFL, so it's like Pee Wee football. And you always played up, and I think in Pee Wee's there's two teams for some reason in one line. You played on the Wranglers, I played on the Stallions, right? Yeah, yes. And you're a quarterback. I was a quarterback for some reason. And we played each other in championship, but my team beat your team. No big deal, but I think that was when I peaked.
To be fair, it wasn't a championship. We didn't win, but one game. Thank God. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Anyway.
But we both...
You did beat us, though. I can see that.
Yeah, that's right. We both grew up in Mundelein, Illinois. We both lived in Loch Lomond in Mundelein. You ended up going to the Catholic high school, Carroll. But then you went off and you played college football. You're at Eastern Illinois, and then you went to Henderson State. Tell the fine people listening where the heck Henderson State is.
The Henderson State University is in quaint little town in Arkadelphia, Arkansas. And here you go, a little piece of trivia. You ready for this?
Yeah.
The oldest Division II rivalry is Ouachita Baptist and Henderson State University. They're right across the street from each other in Arkadelphia, Arkansas. I think it's the 1890-something. They've been going at it, and they've got us by a couple games right now.
Following your career at Henderson State, did you have to go to a different school to do a pro day?
I went to multiple different schools, and the process is very interesting, and as with a lot of things, jobs, everything, there's a lot of, nepotism and cronyism. Like if you're a friend or if you got family in the business, you're better off. However, I'm pretty sure that a scout from Seattle, Ed Dodds, who is now I want to say director of player personnel for Indy.
Okay.
I think he tipped off an agent that he was tight with, and I was getting recruited kind of by three main different agencies, and John Owens was kind of like a small guy out of Florida, kind of running his own operation, and met up with him, and I think he kind of had, like I said previously, the inside track with Ed in Seattle.
Yeah.
So there were some things already happening, and he was lining up these pro days, man. I went to Arkansas Pine Bluff pro day. Our pro day was actually a joint one with Ouachita Baptist.
Oh, baby.
So Philip Supernaw, who's actually a tight end at Ouachita Baptist, played in the league for like 5 years. We were
Titans.
We
was
were
he
at
on the
that
Titans?
same one. Yes, Titans.
Yeah.
For quite the majority of his career, I do believe.
Mm-hmm.
But John sent me down to Florida, where he's based out of Tampa. I did training prior to. I didn't get invited to the combine or anything, so it's like your season ends, and then you're just grinding. And it was kind of a blessing in disguise. I ended up breaking my foot my senior year, right?
Yeah.
And I played 2 games, maybe really played 2 games, and I
Yeah.
think kind of that break, like you look around the league and you look at all those rookies and they kind of fizzle out. And it's just the
Yeah.
nature of the beast, the grind, and the long season, right? I mean, shoot, with the last
Mhm.
CBA, they tacked on another game. I'll hold my
Yeah.
opinions about that.
Yeah.
However, it was just, you know, I was just looking for a shot, right?
Mhm.
And I would do anything that it took, drive wherever I was getting the plug to, perform for whoever was there. And
Yeah. So you had some good tape from your junior season, though, right? Your senior season was pretty solid. Is that what they were looking at, or was it just strictly your combine performance or your pro day performances?
it's that puts you on the radar, right? There's X amount of people that are, my height, my size. I don't move that fast, but I move fast enough, quick,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
But the most important muscle is what gave me longevity was the one between my ears, right? Your brain and
Yeah.
ability to adapt, to pick up different offenses, schemes that are constantly changing, evolving with your personnel, their personnel. It's like a chess game with live humans. But
Yeah.
it's extremely interesting, and having been in it, been removed, had some involvement with our players union and the NFLPA, like I'm constantly learning new things about the process. But ultimately, getting back to your question, junior year, yeah, I had a pretty good year. Mike Vlarps,
Mm-hmm.
all the credit to him being our OC. I got the rock a lot. Nick Hardesty, our quarterback, threw me the ball and trusted me enough to make catches. So I think I hauled in about 55 catches that season, and
Solid.
blocked my tail off.
Yeah. So give me your stats for height, weight, and if you can remember them, max for bench for reps at 225, and maybe your 40 time. If you can remember any of that, I know it's been a while.
So on my pro day, I was 6'4.5". I they they press your head down. They're trying to make sure everything's accurate. I weighed 247. My 40 time was a 4.78. My pro agility was fire. I think I ran my 5.10.5 and 4.1, which is it's a good stat. I ran the L drill in 6.9. I think anything under 7 is pretty good for my size and weight. Yeah, and then I got pretty big reach, like arm span. I forget, it was like in the 70 something, 77. I forget, but what other stat? Bench press. I think I hit 225 18 times.
On that, because we're talking about working out. So we are sponsored now by ProSups, and I wanted to show pre-workout Hide. So this actually is what gets me out of my I guess laziness and funk. So there's literally a period of time, like my birthday is mid-November, and from that point to about like the end of December, like working out is few and far between, and I eat the worst possible food. With ProSups and Hide, it actually is a clean energy that you get, and you're laser focused. Like I'll take it before I go lift, and it kicks in within, for me, like 10 minutes. And before, I'd be in the weight room and it'd be, I'd be in there, I'd be getting stuff done, but I'd be like tired or gassed or just not focused. But with pre-workout, with Hide, I just feel more energized, and there's no like crash after. So just want to shout out to ProSups. Thank you so much for supporting the podcast. Let's jump back into it. Let's get into draft comes and goes. Was Seattle the only team that looked at you?
No. So looking back on it, it's like the relationship that John, my agent, had with Ed in Seattle, in combination with looking at the rosters, what tight ends do they have? What is our best possible opportunity to get in, get reps, show that you belong? Seattle, from all angles, looked to be the place. On top of that, I look back now and it's like, obviously he wanted me to go there because that's who linked it up. And, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Yes,
Russell
we
Wilson
came
was a
in
rookie
together,
the same
same
time as
draft.
you? Ah.
Yes. He took Matt Flynn's job.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Matt
Right.
Flynn,
Okay.
Matt Flynn got paid a lot of money to be a backup that year.
Yeah, but in training camp, so Matt Flynn's the starter to, I'm assuming, going
No, okay,
into
so
that
this is
year.
rookie mini camps. This is rookie mini camp. So it's just Russ at rookie mini camp, and it's just all the rookies, tryout guys. I was an undrafted free agent. So just to kind of give the listener, if you don't have any reference point for undrafted free agents, drafted people, like I did not get picked in the 7 rounds of the draft. I was kind of a guy that came in as a priority undrafted free agent. They kind of sometimes call us. I got a signing bonus, I think to the tune of like $6,000, which was the most money I have seen in a check. It was big time, It still is big time. It's a lot of money. I'm not, turning my nose on $6,000, but I fly out to Seattle and we do rookie minicamp. My agent tells me, hey, like play like you don't have a job, because like you don't really, like you're vying for the 53 man roster. That's what we want to get. That's our goal. Like there's 53 people that make an active roster. 48 people dress on a game day. That might have changed a little bit with the new CBA. I'm not quite sure. You could probably research that on the internet, but get my first dose of what life was going to be for the next half decade ish. They say "not for long" is another acronym for the National Football League, which is very accurate for a lot of people.
So, after that happened, after rookie camp happens, mini camp, and then after training camp, do you make the roster, or are you sent
Nope.
to practice squad? Are you not on the practice squad? What do they do?
I am. So what happens is, even if you are on practice squad, you get cut, right? So they got to cut you because technically you're signing a different contract for practice squad. So, but they kind of like let you know. But however, you have to clear waivers. There's a 24-hour period from when you get cut. Other teams get dibs on you. Like they could pick you up, but the caveat is they could offer you a practice squad spot. But a lot of times what happens is, people will get scooped and they won't leave unless, they're on an active roster, or, they're offering them active roster money to be on the practice squad, or, the opportunity is better there than it is where they're at. So, I didn't quite make the 53, but I was on the practice squad.
So everybody is, well, not everybody, but a majority of the people probably watching this have seen Hard Knocks. Is that like, and I'm assuming you've seen Hard Knocks before. How realistic is that kind of interaction when you're getting let go? Do you actually talk to the head coach? So Pete Carroll, did you have to go into his office and tell you you're cut, or does someone else tell you you're cut?
So essentially, this is how it works. And I don't really support Hard Knocks because I don't think that they do enough to support our players. Like it's a paid deal. Like people who are on it maybe get a minimal cut. So I just kind of want to put that out there that, it's capitalism. I get it. However, it's my choice not to support something. So I'm not even going to mention the name of the show. However, accurate, I haven't really seen a whole lot of it. I didn't meet with Pete because they kind of knew that I was going to be on the practice squad. Other squads that I did get cut from, yeah, you like that's typically the thing you do. Like if you have a good rapport with these people, they try to. It's believe it or not, it's pretty professional to an extent. You have to be in a sense when I think that much money is involved. But yes, like there's someone around there that the players called the Grim Reaper. Okay, and the Grim Reaper is someone that you never really saw, probably because they were a new person or they drew like this short straw. But they were tasked with finding you and saying, "Hey, can I please have your iPad? Any relevant materials that you've taken notes from the playbook? Hand those in. Here's a black paper bag or plastic bag, like a garbage bag. Clean out your locker." It's
Did
such
you keep
such a
anything at all? Like anything that says
oh
Seahawks,
yeah,
or was
I
it
kept
just
all the stuff, and I had this thing with my dad, Big Pat, that he has gear shoot for days, and every squad that I was on was like give it to him. We're both 2X's, but it's like or I'd give it away. They have so much stuff, it's incredible, but yeah, very very interesting.
so? You get bounced, you get picked up on the practice squad. That whole year, you're up and down the practice squad, right? Are you living in Seattle? Do you have an apartment? Do you have where are you living?
Yes, yes. I'm in. I'm shoot. I wish. Probably would probably been nicer than the bed I was sleeping on. But he I was living in Renton, Washington, like super close to the facility, and I stayed there, and I would, they would kind of let like, hey, we got this going on with numbers, and like they could pay you more, so they'd be like, hey, we're gonna pay you this much to cover like your cost for next week because we want to make sure that you stick around, pretty much.
So what's the salary
Go ahead,
for a
sorry.
practice squad? What's the salary for a practice squad guy?
Practice squad at that time was $100,000 before taxes. I would say it was kind of right in that ballpark, and you're getting paid 17-week installments throughout the season. So for those of you listening that didn't know that, but like you get whether you're Tom Brady, I think let me backtrack. There's a couple teams that have kind of adopted a year-round payment schedule just to kind of mitigate some of the statistics I think that are happening after with a bunch of the players going broke and stuff. But majority of the teams, their pay from top dog to lowly P squad guy, it's that number divided by however many game weeks there are, or really weeks in the season. So when I was playing, it was 17 weeks.
So fast forward, you get called up to the big squad at was it second to last game of the season, or was it last game of the season in 2012 for Seattle?
Yes, it was the second to last game against the 49ers.
So you get a bump in
My
salary once you make that roster, right?
Just a little bit. Yeah. Huge
A little
bump.
bit, and that, and we don't have to talk about that part of it, but that's awesome.
It's all
You're
public
all
record. You
excited.
could look up all that stuff.
Okay, everybody, go ahead and look it up. First game ever. Get on the field at all? Play any snaps that game?
Funny story. I was on the kickoff return unit, and they didn't score a point the entire first half, and I had to wait until the second half to get my first rep as a professional. We
Yeah.
got a ball that was returnable. Leon Washington fields it, and my job was to block a three. Like I think they count like the guys usually 5-by-5 with the kicker in the middle, so 11 guys. They're running down. We count them from the outside in. 1, 2, 3. Block the third guy on the left was my job, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Ball gets kicked. I drop back. Boom. I go to block this guy, and this guy just yeah, and just runs right by me. Luckily, he didn't make the tackle. Leon Washington just, and like I'm chasing him, and I think he gets past the 50-yard line. So it was like a great return. So that's my first play in the NFL.
What was your feeling, your emotion? First of all, being in that stadium, and second of all, that first play before the kickoff. You're waiting for anticipation from the kick it off, right? So what's going through your mind?
You know, I remember just soaking it in. And when you're on a stage like that and you have all these people looking at you, and the arena is what it is, it's an extremely, I'm trying to put it into words. It's euphoric in a sense that, hey, you've achieved something that essentially I've been working my entire life to achieve, which is to play in the National Football League. But then there's also a sense that, like, whoa, like, is this real? Like, am I really doing this?
Yeah.
And get it together. Like, let's go. And things happen fast, and it happened, and, next play. So it's like, you get to soak it in long enough to realize that, hey, you're there, and then the play's over, right?
Yeah.
And then here we are.
That's amazing.
Talking about it.
Yeah, something you'll never forget. So, do you remember if you won that game or not?
Yes, we did, because there was playoff implications, which we went into. We won the wild card game, and then we lost in a last-second field goal.
Yeah. So and so you actually got to stay on the roster, and you played in 2 playoff games. You beat the Washington, we won't say what the name was then, Commanders, and then you played the Falcons and lost?
Yeah. Field goal, man.
Yeah.
It was
crazy. And
I will tell you what. You go ahead.
I was just gonna go. I guess touch upon. You came up at the very end of the season. Now you're playing in the playoffs, and your team wins, and now you're playing for a chance to go to the NFC Championship game, right? So like that's a small span and a quick way to adjust. Like, I'm just trying to make the team. Oh, I made the team. Oh, I could be going to the NFC Championship. Like, what's going through your head, your emotions? Are you just happy to be there? Are you trying to actually crack the become a starter or help where you can? What exactly is going through your mind, or what are you doing?
Yeah, I think, to your point, am I trying to be a starter? Yes, I'm always trying to be a starter. And I think that if you don't have that mindset within that level of play, you won't get there. And kind of your question, like, what's going through your mind? Like, all I'm focused on is keeping my job for the next week. I know where I'm at on the roster. And it's like, yes, there's pressure, but like at the same time, like, you want that pressure, right? Because you're doing what it is you've dreamt of doing. Like, why would you be complaining about it?
But yeah, that's just wild. Like, you're doing things that you dreamed of as a kid. Tell me what it was like after games to see your parents, see your sisters. What was that like?
My dad, like, he was for sure living vicariously through me. Like, he had he played semi-pro ball up in Wisconsin for Delavan Red Devils or something. I don't know, but he was a defensive end. There's always a part of him that was like, hey, make sure you're having fun always. With him, it was always make sure you're having fun first and foremost, and that, I think, contributed to my love of the game, and really not hitting those walls that people usually do and getting burnt out with playing the game. But I mean, just being there and realizing that the dream had come true for me, and recognizing them and their paramount role that they played to help get me there was
Yeah, I mean,
just
your dad coached you a majority of your life. He coached me as well, so that had to feel like,
yeah.
he definitely was a part of it, and that's awesome that he was there to see you play. I'm sure that had to feel good for you after the game, probably getting a nice little pick on the field.
Yeah, dude, it was. I mean, yeah, and like Seattle was like Pete Pete Carroll, who's still the coach over there. Like, if you told him that, hey, like my parents are coming in town, and my dad, like they watch practice, like they allowed my parents in the facility to watch practice,
That's
as well
cool.
as other like people that maybe shouldn't have been watching my practice, other buddies that came out, but like his environment, what like those little things that people don't really think about, like they could be a huge deal for other people, and my dad still talks about
Yeah,
that like to this
yeah.
day.
So, is Pete Carroll your favorite coach that you had in the NFL? Andy Reid was one of your coaches as well, and I think you had Anthony Lynn, Mike McCoy. Who was your favorite head coach?
My favorite head coach or my favorite coach?
Head coach. Let's go with head coach.
Head coach, okay. Andy. I
Andy.
mean, Andy Reid, like I don't know how to put it, like he is like your fun uncle, but also the strict one at the same time that you wanted to impress.
Yeah.
He's just unfathomably smart, if that's a word. Unfathomable. If I said it right.
Yeah, we'll take it.
It's incredible. And the thing that I appreciated about him the most is that he was so dang witty, and the gift of, like he could rattle off jokes. I could just give you one, for instance.
Yes.
My nickname that he dubbed me was Reciprocal. And he did the pass install. So one day we're just sitting there, and he looked at me and said, "Reciprocal. That's your new nickname." And those of you not math savvy, reciprocal of 1/2, 1/2 is 2/1. At the time, I had a giant beard, so he was referring to, hey, at one
Huge.
point I had hair on my head and not on my face, and then it flipped, and now it's on my face and not on my head. But the funniest thing about that was he said that knowing well that majority of the people in the room did not get it. I think Anthony
Yeah.
Fasano, Notre Dame graduate, and myself were the only ones to like laugh, because it's hilarious, but also it's like you're only gonna get it if you know what reciprocal is.
Yeah.
But
That's awesome.
there you go.
So Andy,
Well,
your
the
favorite
quarterbacks
coach.
obviously
So
got it too.
yeah. So Andy was your favorite coach. And I want to talk a little bit about your teammates. So when you were in Seattle, and I want to bring this up because it's in all over for sports news this whole season with Russell Wilson and how he's been playing and kind of his personality. Like, what was he like when you were with him his rookie year? Obviously, that's going to be a different personality than what he's showing now. Was he as corny? Was he just hardworking? Did he say much at that time?
Russ, he's a leader. Like, he's a leader of men, and he did things in the game that propelled kind of what was going on with Michael Vick, who kind of, brought the running threat, but also, could pass. But Russ took it to a different level because of his intellect, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
He is very smart person. I don't I can't really speak on what he is. I haven't really been following, other than I know that Denver is not having a so great year. There was some controversy with him being their quarterback.
Yeah.
However, the quarterback position needs to be a leader. Like, I can't see him changing. He was a man of value. Like, he was very active in the community. Like, I would have a joke with my buddies, like, God, like, Russ, like, I get it. You're at the Seattle Children's Hospital every day. Like, come on, guy. Like, you don't have to put on Instagram every day, make me feel bad about what I'm doing. But, those things kind of get low-lighted because everybody wants their football team to win. But, he's a great person, and he impacts a lot of lives with just who he is as a quarterback. So for that, like, I can never bag on the guy. He's a quality person, never really did any harm to me. So
yeah. What about Marshawn Lynch? Big personality. Tell me about being around him.
So my name wasn't Sean. It was McGrath, because Sean was already taken. They called him, like, Marshawn is Sean, like Sean. That's okay. Marshawn.
Yeah.
He, by far, one of the most interesting people I've ever met in my life, because what you see with with Marshawn is what you get, and he's not changing for anyone. And everyone's doing these speculations about the media stuff. I'm just here so I don't get fined. But that whole bit, but, like, he for real, like, that was the truth. That was the truth. He was just there so he didn't get fined. Because you get fined if you don't get it, because part of the contract obligation he wasn't fulfilling. But treated everyone with respect, never lost where he was from, and brought that flavor wherever he was at. And this is where I got a taste of West Coast swag. It's put on as much clothes as you can underneath your jersey. That's West Coast swag. 2 pairs of socks. Like, he came out with a polo underneath his jersey one time during a walk. Like,
that's great.
But, I don't know what they do in Oakland, but great guy. I can't say enough good about him.
That's awesome. And Skittles, baby, and Skittles. Yeah. So, getting back on track on kind of your journey. So, you guys lose to the Falcons. Going into the offseason, what's going on? Contract-wise, you think you're going to be back in Seattle? What's your agent doing? What's the situation there?
So pretty much when you sign a contract within, like, your rookie year, the collective bargaining agreement says that, hey, this is it. You're locked in for 4 years, regardless. Yeah. Right? And that's kind of how it is. They raised the rookie minimums, all these things within the last collective bargaining agreement. However, that's what it is. Like, I'm locked into Seattle. My objective is, hey, make the 53-man roster. Do everything in your power. Train as hard as you can. Do everything within your power to make it as hard as you can on the people making the decision who's going to be on that 53-man roster.
So what happens? What happening?
So, ball out preseason. I mean, absolutely crush. Zach Miller, our starting tight end, isn't even playing because he's nursing an injury. We need him for the regular season. I'm starting games in preseason. We draft a young Luke Wilson, who went on to have several years of success. 2 L's. But ended up, there was some number issues. I ended up getting waived. Like, not that it's any consolation. Last person cut. No consolation, because you're still cut. They say, hey, we're going to try to keep you on practice squad. I said, okay. Obviously, I'm a little disappointed. I meet with Pete at this point, and he tells me that, we're trying to keep you on practice squad again. Like, we like what you did. It kind of just reaffirmed all my confidence that I had. However, I get a call from my agent, later that evening saying that, hey, Sean, I don't know for sure yet. However, I've been on the horn with multiple teams. Just start packing up your house. He said,
Oh,
just start packing up your house. So this is that
jeez.
24-hour period where you clear waivers that I referred to
Yeah.
earlier. Other teams get a shot at all the people that got cut, and the first priority comes with the team that had the worst record the year before. Didn't make it far. The Kansas City Chiefs were 2 and I think they won 2 games the year before that. Andy
Hmm.
Reid, first year there, I got the call from Johnny. He said, "Hey, Sean, just got claimed off waivers to Kansas City. That they'll be in touch with you shortly. They have all the flight information. You're going to be on that plane tomorrow. Make sure you have all your things and all your ducks in a row." And from there, that was it, man. Like, I had a job. Like, I knew where I was going. I knew I had a head coach. But it's wild. What other job at a drop of a hat could you be in a different city, moving your entire life? I'm glad I didn't have to drag my entire family with me at that point, because I didn't. It was just me.
Yeah.
And boom, I was in Kansas City the next day.
What a great place for you to go. At the time, like you said, they weren't very good. You're happy to be on a roster. What's the situation with tight ends at the time? Like, who's in front of you, and what's your outlook for getting on the roster?
My outlook
Yeah.
was good. I was going to be on the squad for at least 2 weeks, is what I think that they have to keep you for. So I knew that at least. Travis Kelce was his first year. He had the microfractures in his knee. Okay. He ended up not even playing that year. Anthony Fasano was the other starter. He, was going up and down with his kind of injury status. So it's like, whoa, like there's some holes to be filled on this roster. Here I am. Let's plug. So
Yeah.
I immediately get mixed in. Luckily, it's kind of within the same West Coast offense. Darrell Bevell was actually with Andy Reid in Green Bay eons ago. But some of the terminology, concepts, they all overlap. You can do so
Yeah.
much with 11 people conceptually, but you can call it a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
So
It's just trying
luckily,
to understand
I
the
had
language, right?
exactly. So I get enough of it to where Anthony Fasano goes down in Dallas week 2. Boom. Week 3, Andy Reid's homecoming, Philadelphia. We're playing in Philly for Andy Reid's first game after he's been there for what was he in Philly for 10 years?
Yeah,
Like a long
and went
time,
to
man.
the
So there was
Super Bowl, and yeah, he went to the NFC Championship like 3 or 4 times. Yeah, so
they couldn't. Yeah, I was so glad when he got his first one. But anyway, it was like a big deal, and I was like, "Whoa, this is my first start. Whoa, this is like there's so many things happening," and it's like, "Whoa." We start that season 9-game win streak, 9-0. We were like
wow.
things were rolling, man. Things were clicking. Alex Smith was distributing the ball. Probably
Yeah,
owe the rest of my career to him, because he gave me stats and trusted me
yeah,
again, just like Hardesty in college, that I would catch it and complete the job. And, the guys on that team, there's something unique and special about every team that I've been on. That team, man, it was just like people just got along, and it wasn't forced, And
yeah,
I think that any area in life, when you get a bunch of people with a common goal moving in the right direction, special things could happen. And when you have
yeah,
someone at the helm like Andy Reid, who's leading these men in the direction, even better things happen. And we've seen that as evidence as he's turned that program around, that organization, that X-Pac money for the Hunt family. But he's turned that into a championship city.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, big ups, man. I love Kansas City. I love Chiefs Kingdom, and the whole experience was phenomenal.
So in that season, in that 2013 season with the Kansas City Chiefs, you had a great season. You guys were 11-5. You started 9 games. You scored 2 touchdowns, and to top it off, you guys made the playoffs and played in one of the wildest playoff games I've ever seen. Do you recall that game? Do you know who you played in that playoff game?
Yes, I recall this ESPN Insta Classic. I
Yeah.
do wish that I was on the winning side. However, it was thrilling for the fans, I'm sure. Uh, Andrew Luck, his name says it all in that one. Like, I specifically remember I forget if he fumbled the snap or what happened. It rolled back on a shotgun, but it like Sunday hopped to him and he like stunked it in the end zone. And I was like, well, that's perfect. But it ended up working out for me because I think my appendix burst the next week.
Oh my God.
So I wouldn't have been playing in the next game.
Yeah. Well, that game ended 45-44. I was in Chicago watching it. I was with Griffin. Shout out to Nick Griffin. Griff. And it just going back and forth. It was a wild game. But yeah, so a great season. And then going into that next year, going to the off season, you came back home to Chicago. I remember we hung out a couple of times, and then going back to training camp that following year. So going into 2014, tell us a little bit about what was going on there.
Yeah. So as we know, we won the most important championship that year in the city of Chicago.
Wait, that didn't happen yet. I'm talking about because you went first. You tried to go to training camp for Kansas City again for year 2.
Yeah, so I went to training camp, okay?
Yeah.
I drove to training camp. On my way there, I had some things kind of boiling up inside me. In retrospect, I think that kind of wall that I was referring to prior, I think I hit that hard. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I was like, I made it here. I had all this success, but also like I love art. I have my degree in studio art, and I just wanted to create. And I have been living this didactic of sports, the arts, lift with the meatheads, talk with the intellects. So it's like this kind of thing was pulling me away, and I was like, like I have to explore this. My body is what it is and has become, and I think that I want to leave on my own accord. So I decided to kind of walk away from the NFL and live in the city of Chicago and do my thing.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about going and telling Andy Reid that you're retiring. Like, how did he react?
He took it like, man, he's like, Sean, I'm not going to stop you from walking out of here. He was super receptive in receiving the news, and we had gained a great rapport over the year, and he wanted me to watch one video. It was by a Navy SEAL. It was like I want to say it was like a commencement speech for whatever class, and I watched this thing, and it was super interesting, but I've watched it since, and it was like 10 rules of life. And you could probably find it on the internet. Any old way, he had me sent that, and then he's like, hey, come back after you watch this. And he's like, hey, look, like, football, like, we would love to have you. The game of football, I think, needs you, is what he said, and that's kind of stuck with me. Because, like, I'm juice, jacked up, intense, constant energy. I was always bringing the juice. And
if you're juiceless, you're useless.
Exactly. It makes me want to have some Hyde right
now. Baby.
Plug.
What up, bro subs?
But yeah, like he was super receptive, and he realized that, shoot, I'm my own man. I'm going to make my own decisions, and that was it. And when I eventually was like, hey, I want to come back, he's like, sorry, bro.
Yeah. But I mean, maybe he didn't know what you did over the offseason. And maybe if you would have told him that part, which we'll go over right now, maybe he would have took you back. So here's a little bit about what happened. So Sean comes back. He comes back to the city of Chicago. I'm living there. A bunch of my other friends are living there. And we're playing, or we decided to form a team to play flag football in, I don't know, what park was it? It was downtown Chicago. But we had like a nightly flag football league, and we end up winning the city championship. And it was so funny because Sean would play, you would play the center, you'd snap the ball, and then you go out on routes. And if we're just looking, and we're wearing sweatpants because it's pretty cold at the time, like it's like fall going into winter, right?
Game was
uh,
snowing.
yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
But if you're just a normal guy looking at you who's wearing like sweatpants, like, oh, this guy's playing center for a reason. He's no threat to me. He's just like a bigger guy, right? He's offensive lineman. Got no threat. And then you would just storm past everybody and just moss people, and we would just like roll to the championship and just rolled and dominated the championship. So we got the ship, and we had a sponsor for our team. So like after every game, we were supposed to go to this bar and we get like deals. But I remember that after the championship, we went to the bar, and like I'm standing next to you at the bar, and you said something to the effect of, "Man, I'm gonna get back into it," or something like that. And I said, "Get back into what?" And I think you said, I don't know if you said the NFL or you just said playing football. And like I didn't say anything back. I'm like, maybe it was like, oh yeah, or something like that. But like in my head, I'm like, you don't get back
For sure.
into the NFL. Yeah, I know. I was like, you don't just get back. Like in my head, I'm like, okay. I'm like, yeah, okay. But then you said something like, I'm gonna go dark. Like I'm not gonna drink. I'm not gonna do this. I'm gonna turn off my phone. I'm just gonna go become an animal and work out hard. And I'm like, okay. So tell us about that period of your life.
Absolutely. So let's not skip over possibly the most important part of this podcast, which is winning the championship in the city of
Oh
Chicago
yeah,
in a competitive league. Let's not leave out
yeah, baby.
all of the stuff.
I think you're the only person in the history of the NFL to play in the NFL, retire, win the championship in flag football in the city of Chicago, and then go back into the NFL. I think I think you're the only person in the history of the world.
Look, I think we should call Guinness.
We should. We should. We got the photos. We'll insert the photos into this podcast. If you're listening, go to YouTube, watch this, and you'll see the photos of our championship. So there you go.
We are the champions. We should be playing. But yeah, so going dark, I think I said, man, I'm gonna get back in the league is kind of
Yeah.
what my go-to phrase was at that time. I was living right at the edge of Old Town and Wrigleyville at the time, and I was like, what better place than where it all began in Arkansas? Rented a cabin, middle of like very kind of remote,
Yeah.
even more remote than Arkansas. But it was like eliminate all distractions, grind,
Yeah.
like get back to what got me here, but also a chance to kind of reflect on, hey, this is where I am. Be where your feet are. Focus on what it is that's going to get you back to where you want to go. And that's all it was. And, thank goodness that, my agent was working for me. And shoot, there was a couple teams out there that flew me out for tryouts. And I was bouncing all over the place for a little bit there until, Indianapolis.
So did you have to get like a release from KC? Like were you still
Yeah.
technically owned by them?
Yeah. Essentially, yeah. So I had to call John Dorsey, who was the GM at the time, and be like,
Mm-hmm.
pen him. I had to write him a deal and say, hey, like, I'm good to go. And they responded with, you are now cut.
Thank you,
Fair
John.
enough. Fair enough.
Yeah, yeah,
And it's a business. Look, we
yeah.
live in a capitalistic society, and The
Yeah.
almighty dollar rules everything. So I get it. No
And
hard feelings.
Kelsey was up and running. So
Yeah, said we're good.
yeah. So you got picked up by the Colts, right?
Right.
So how many was that, 1 or 2 years you were with the Colts, or what
Just
was going on there?
bounce on and off their practice squad for you know, that 2015 season until like about halfway through the season ish.
Mm-hmm.
And I should note here, plug my wife Rebecca. This is where I met her. Grinding face in the service industry. So my
Yeah.
lovely wife Rebecca, I love you, and our 2
So
children
you met her in Indy?
in Indy. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Nice.
that's where my love story begins. But that's a whole different story aside from football. And then about again about like halfway through, and Indy's like, hey, they kept teasing me, hey, we're gonna put you on active roster. Hey, we're gonna put you on active roster. San Diego Chargers at the time were like, hey, spot's yours, 53-man roster. You're not going to play this week, but we're going to put you on the roster. Easy choice, California. Never really been there. Let's go.
So how does that work? Like, you're on the practice squad with the Colts. Like, do you have
They
to?
cut me. Well, I was technically a free agent at that point,
Okay.
but I'm still in contact with Indy.
Okay.
And then it's kind of like, hey, I let Indy know because I'm probably more loyal than I should be. I'm like, hey, like this is happening, and they're like, we'll see what we could do, and nothing really came up. So
Yeah. So you end up going to San Diego. Antonio Gates, Philip Rivers. Those are 2 vets that you ended up going and playing with. First, tell us about the transition into San Diego, and then tell us about those 2 guys specifically.
absolutely, you know, both future Hall of Famers in my opinion, both Phil and Antonio. It's like those guys, man, unbelievable. I could go on and on about like how Gates invented the pivot route. Like that's his deal, and his basketball background is just unbelievable to watch him. It's like he was at the tail end of his career, right? 15-year
Yeah.
career. Jeez.
Yeah.
But he still had it, man. Like he still like it was just. And then Hunter Henry
Yeah.
was drafted right
Oh
in that
yeah.
time too. So there was a bunch of. We had a really tight room. Like I loved our tight end
Yeah.
room, and Phil is just another coach on the field, just unbelievable. And
Mm-hmm.
he has this persona on TV. If you don't know him, like he talks smack, but he doesn't swear. It's unbelievable.
That's what I was gonna bring
Yeah.
up. He does he actually not swear at all?
Gosh dang it! Like yeah, he was just he's got that southern draw too. But as far as the transition, it was just every organization is different. And by that point, I had just kind of got used to not being comfortable in any one place for any given amount of time because at the
Yeah.
end of the day, like it could all be taken from you at any moment.
When it comes to blocking a 300 plus guy, um, is there like a switch where you just turn it off when it comes to, like, whether it's fear, anxiety, nerves, and you just switch it off, or is it just uh, you got the dog?
A lot of it happens before. It's like, hey, all of this things, all this like performances, like happens a lot of it before the game, and
Mm-hmm.
then to a certain extent, instincts take over in the game. You know this stuff. You've been
Yeah.
repping it, and with new science and neuroplasticity, it's shown that like your brain fires charges and your synapses are capturing this stuff and you're ingraining paths within your brains. These are
Mm-hmm.
habits, these are what have you, right? My first step, my technique, like being a technician regardless of who's in front of you, because if you're the low inside man, you put yourself at a greater chance of winning than if you're not. Because I'm not saying you win every time, because natural ability, like it's physics. Some people are just too strong. Even if I have perfect technique,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I'm not as strong as I should be to move this person in the directions that they don't want to go.
So back to you being a Charger. So that first season, you guys were 5-11. You weren't. So you weren't there the whole season, but you started 5 games, and then going into the next year, to 2017, you started 6 games. You guys were 9-7. You just missed the playoffs, I want to say, right?
Yeah. You could say that. I don't think.
Yeah. I mean, okay. Well, I can't. So I know you guys had you would win early in the season, then you guys would just tail off.
Every game in the NFL was close, but we ended up with a not so hot record.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, 9-7 ain't bad, but I guess it's not making the playoffs, so
I
it's
guess
not
it would
good
be
enough.
more accurate to
But
say we missed the playoffs that year.
you missed the
Take
playoffs.
away
Okay.
the yes.
There you go. So with those 2 years, tell me highlights, lowlights. Who's the biggest had the biggest effect on you, whether it's a coach or a player, on the Chargers?
So that was kind of, a time in my career where I kind of came into my own. I'm on California. Jeez. I'm in California on the beach. Jeez. I get why people in California aren't as avid sports fans, because there's so much else to do. And, wow. So impactful moments, impactful people. I'm going to have to say, within the game, I learned a lot from Antonio, like a lot. And watching him and Phil just be on the same page, like they had, what is everybody in tech reach, like singularity, is that what it's called? Like they were just, without communicating, it was. So there's this play, for instance, let me, this kind of sums it up real well. You either run a post or a corner, depending on the leverage of the defender and coverage, numerous different factors. But anyways, the point of the story is, as the tight end, and the quarterback, you could choose which way to go depending on leverage. And usually there's some sort of tick, like, hey, like some sort of signal, some sort of whatever. And we were watching a film one day, and we turned to Gates, we're like, Gates, bro, like, you ran a post in this. It was called a corner. Like, we're looking on tape. There's nothing that you and Phil did to each other that would indicate you switching your route. Like, what happened? He's like, man, I looked at Phil looked at me, and we just knew. It's just like, what?
Oh God.
But like
that's
and
awesome.
they loved, like, we loved just having a catch. And I think like Phil and Gates were kind of like the same way. And it was like, that's what it was. It's just the love of just ball, dog. Like,
at the end of that year, 2017, on the Chargers, like I said, you guys didn't make the playoffs. You guys were 9-7. What happens in that offseason?
I become a free agent. I become a free agency. Like, I'm like, whoa, I'm out of this initial contract, the rookie one. And I talked to the Chargers. I'm like, hey, are you going to tender me? Which means, like, they pay you X amount of dollars. You re-up your contract for 2 years, essentially.
Yeah.
They really didn't make any moves. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to test the free market agent, or the free market agent, the free agency market. Okay.
There you go.
Turns out the free agency market wasn't too high on a third string tight end. And what ends up happening is I no longer have a job. I'm continuing to train. Then I go and I eventually stick on they had like, I think maybe 1 or 2 days left of OTAs with the Lions in Detroit. And I always tell people this is kind of like my go-to kind of phrasing of what happened in Detroit. I say, and then my love of playing the game died with Matt Patricia's first year as a head coach in Detroit.
Oh God.
Because it was, everyone wants to be Bill Belichick. Just Matt, he is a great person, I think, Matt Patricia, but like, be Matt Patricia.
Mm-hmm.
You're not Bill Belichick. No one's Bill Belichick. And Bill Belichick isn't Bill Belichick without Tom Brady. Let's not forget that.
So the Lions cut you. Did you go to any other team after that, or was that just the end of it?
That was it. And my wife and I are starting our family. Like, we're working on trying to have a kid, and we're like, hey, this date, if it doesn't come by this day, then that means the universe is just telling us time to hang him up for real this time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that date came and went, and then all of a sudden, Ed Dodds is now in Indy, and this dude hits my phone. He's like, hey, I want you to come out and have a tryout the week after. I said, sorry, Ed. You call somebody else, my guy.
Wow. That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, I guess you just knew, right? Now at that point, was it your feeling for the game different than your first retirement?
A little bit. It's my body is and continues to be just jacked up. I had my first surgery after that season, my only surgery, thank God, within my tenure in the NFL. And I'm not shaking. Mm-hmm. It's this finger right here, the middle one. But yeah, and that was it. And I think it was just me listening to my body, me taking a step away from the expectations of others, and just really honing in that, like, hey, that was it. Like,
I mean, the like percentage of, or the chances of you not only playing college football but making it to the NFL, making it as long as you did, to be playing in big time games with these incredible athletes in playoff games, and winning a championship in Chicago with flag football. But that alone, like, is incredible. And I mean, everybody back home and all your friends and family are so proud of you. So,
well, thanks,
this is great. But how much of like that, like the ending with the Lions, like, was some of that because, like, are you considered a veteran? Do you get a veteran minimum at that point? Like, is that factor in? Because that's what, business wise, it's like, well, we could take this tight end who, he'll get the job done, but we have to pay him a little bit more, or we could take a chance on this rookie, pay him a lot less. Like,
what it is. And again, no ill feelings towards anyone. That's the nature of the game. It's my time was gone, and you could either work towards accepting it, because I could tell you, I struggled for a good year. Like, when I left the league, I thought I had it together, but I did not. Like, it's you're at a pinnacle of a career, right? And then all of a sudden, and nobody is saying, oh, poor ex NFL football player. And I'm not
poor Sean.
Pity, but it's like, there's a lot that goes on, and then all of a sudden, all the people that were always there, suddenly you're not having as much of an interesting life. So, some of these people that were kind of on the peripheral just kind of go by the wayside, right? And
Yeah.
you find out who your people are, and thank goodness I have the family that I do, the wife and support system that I do, like all of you guys and all my friends, the people that were just as important to getting where I was. I was able to kind of lean on when I needed them the most, and when I was kind of going through it and feeling some type of way. So,
Like you say, being that dog and balling out and doing what you were born to do. You were born to be a legend in Mundaline. And you were born to play football. And I think you were also born to inspire more people. That's why I want to have you on again. And thank you again for joining us.
go Star Volta! Let's
Let's
go!
go. All right. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you later. Goodbye.